The Caribbean is often imagined as a paradise. White beaches, warm sunshine, colorful streets filled with music and laughter. But today, behind the beauty of this island, a silent crisis is unfolding. This is Cuba, and for millions of people living there, daily life has become a struggle for survival. Night falls over Havana, but the darkness you see is not just the night. Across the country, entire cities are suddenly losing electricity. Homes go dark. Hospitals struggle to keep machines running. Families sit in silence, waiting, hoping the lights will come back. But sometimes they don't. For many Cubans, blackouts now last for hours, sometimes even most of the day. Without electricity, refrigerators stop working. Food spoils. Water pumps stop. And even the simplest daily tasks become nearly impossible. Imagine trying to cook dinner without electricity. Imagine a hospital trying to operate during a blackout. Imagine a country where millions wake up every morning not knowing if power will exist that day. And this is only the beginning of the crisis. Because behind the darkness lies a deeper problem. A severe shortage of fuel that is pushing the entire nation to the edge. The streets of Havana are quieter now. Buses are scarce. Cars barely move. Businesses struggle to stay open. Life across the island is slowing down, almost to a halt. But why is this happening? What forces have pushed Cuba into one of the worst crises in decades? To understand that, we must look deeper. To understand Cuba's crisis, we must look at one critical element: energy. For decades, Cuba has relied heavily on imported fuel to power its electricity plants, transportation systems, and industries. Unlike many large countries, Cuba does not produce enough oil on its own. Instead, it depends on shipments from foreign partners. But in recent years, those shipments have become increasingly unreliable. Economic difficulties, global energy disruptions, and political tensions have all contributed to a growing shortage of fuel. And when fuel stops arriving, an entire country begins to slow down. Power plants cannot operate at full capacity. Electricity production drops dramatically. And the result is something millions of Cubans now experience every day: blackouts. Entire neighborhoods lose power. Factories stop working. Public transportation struggles to operate. Even food production is affected, as farms and processing facilities depend on electricity. But the crisis goes even deeper. Cuba is also facing a severe economic struggle. Years of financial pressure, declining tourism during the pandemic, and ongoing international sanctions have made it extremely difficult for the country to purchase fuel and other essential goods. Inflation has risen sharply. Food shortages have become more common. And basic necessities that people once took for granted are now increasingly difficult to find. For many Cuban families, daily life has turned into a constant search. A search for electricity, a search for fuel, a search for food. And while the government works to stabilize the situation, the pressure on ordinary people continues to grow. Yet despite the hardship, life in Cuba does not stop. Because the Cuban people have learned something powerful over decades of struggle: how to survive, how to adapt, and how to endure. But the question remains: how long can this continue? When the power goes out in Cuba, life changes instantly. The lights disappear. Fans stop spinning in the tropical heat. Air conditioners fall silent. And entire neighborhoods sink into darkness. For many Cuban families, blackouts are no longer rare events. They have become a part of daily life. Some last 2 hours. Some last 6. And sometimes, the electricity disappears for most of the day. Inside small apartments across Havana, families sit together in the dim light of candles. Children try to do homework in the dark. Parents worry about food stored in refrigerators that are slowly warming. Without electricity, even water can become scarce. Many buildings rely on electric pumps to move water to upper floors. When the power goes out, the water stops too. Hospitals face their own challenges. Doctors and nurses must rely on backup generators to keep critical equipment running. But fuel for generators is also limited. Every blackout creates another layer of uncertainty. And outside the homes, the streets feel different. Traffic lights stop working. Public transportation becomes unpredictable. Businesses close early because they simply cannot operate without power. For shop owners and restaurant workers, every blackout means lost income. For farmers, it means difficulties processing and transporting food. For students, it means studying under candlelight. Yet despite the darkness, Cuban neighborhoods often come alive in unexpected ways. People gather outside their homes. Neighbors talk, share stories, and support one another. Music sometimes echoes through the streets. Even in the middle of hardship, the spirit of community remains strong. But beneath that resilience lies a deeper question. A question millions of Cubans are quietly asking. How long can life continue like this? And as the crisis grows, as the crisis deepens, frustration begins to grow. Across Cuba, people are feeling the pressure of daily shortages, long blackouts, and rising prices. For many families, patience is slowly turning into anger. And sometimes, that anger spills into the streets. In recent years, Cuba has witnessed rare scenes that shocked the world. Crowds of people gathering in public squares, voices rising in protest, citizens demanding change. For decades, large public demonstrations in Cuba were extremely uncommon. But as economic difficulties intensified, more people began speaking out about their struggles. Some protested the long power outages. Others demanded better access to food, medicine, and basic necessities. Videos recorded on mobile phones quickly spread across social media. Images of protests in cities like Havana and Santiago circulated around the world. The Cuban government responded by calling for calm and emphasizing the challenges the country faces. Officials blamed many of the economic difficulties on long-standing international sanctions and global economic pressures. At the same time, security forces were deployed in some areas to control demonstrations. The situation became tense. For many Cubans, the protests represented frustration that had been building for years. For the government, maintaining stability became a critical priority. And while the demonstrations eventually faded, the underlying problems did not disappear. Blackouts continued, fuel shortages remained, and the economic struggle persisted. Today, Cuba stands at a difficult crossroads. A nation proud of its history and resilience, yet facing one of the most challenging moments in recent decades. The question now is not just about electricity or fuel. It is about the future. What direction will Cuba take? And what will life on this island look like in the years ahead? That question is beginning to reach far beyond the island.